I'll start by quoting one of my favorite entrepreneurs, Steve Jobs, and he said, "You cannot connect the dots looking forward. You have to connect them looking backwards." So you have to trust that at some point in the future, you will be able to connect them. So I'll try to make sense of this quote, highlighting a little bit of what is being my life story. I'll start by talking a little bit about entrepreneurship. So entrepreneurship in our continent is just something that happens. I think we all grew up seeing our grandparents, our parents, just being entrepreneurs. My grandmother, she used to, grow whole vegetables, fruits, livestock at home, and then she would sell it to the community, right? But most importantly, she used to grow and sell herbal medicine. Obviously, nowadays, it's absurd to rely on somebody that grows on herbal medicine, but growing up, I saw a lot of people that were struggling in hospitals coming through my grandmother's front gate for some medicine. And she would usually say and tell them, "Don't pay me, take it. If it helps you and your family, feel free to come back and reward me to what you see fit." So live here, I think I'm bold enough to say that my grandmother invented the freemium model. 99% of people coming back to pay her. So it was something amazed. Nowadays I would say, well, maybe she missed a few lessons on value capture because you don't give things for free. But obviously now there's freemium. We all say, that makes sense, right? The next influence in my life was my mother. And entrepreneurship was so enrooted that I didn't know what my mother did from 9 to 5. But I knew what her side business was, and it was baking. Why? Because entrepreneurship in Africa, it's not just the entrepreneur, right? The entire family has to help. In our 9 to 5, we could not get involved, but I can tell you that I do know a thing or two about baking, if anybody cares. So these two, obviously, there was many examples, many role models. These two were the pillars for what I set out to do now. But even though that happened, I was introduced to, society script, as we might call it, which is you have to go to school, you have to get a job, and you have to raise a family. And that's what I did. Because funds were scarce, my mother paid my school. I was first introduced to private school when I went to university, and that got me ready for my corporate life. I managed to climb up the ranks, but something was missing. I could feel that something was missing. I was never happy. One day, a social entrepreneur wanted to partner with the company that I was representing. So he came in, he showed something that promised double bottom line. I had never heard that in my life, and I was amazed. But I can tell you that I was not amazed because of the technology. I couldn't tell why, but it's just something that clicked. A few years went by, and I just decided to quit and started my journey as an entrepreneur. So I went back to that social entrepreneur and asked for tips, and can we partner? Can we make something out of a couple of ideas? And we started to dwell and entertain the idea of digitizing savings groups. Going back to my mother, one of the ways she could finance her baking business was a couple of weekends in a month. She would take me and my sister to a family gathering, where everybody would put money in a table. Nowadays, some people might mistake that with gambling, because some people would live without money and some people would live with money. But that was the way that she could finance her business, because most of these businesses were informal. So banks were not there to support. Coming back to my story, we decided to digitize savings groups, and that's what it clicked, that, this was actually what my mother was actually doing to finance her business. So it made sense. We did that for a couple of years. Our product now supports hundreds of thousands of people, and the team grew. But we decided to, since it's in fashion now, we have to look at the data, right? If you're a tech business. We looked at it, and it shows us that there was a gap. Most of our members and clients were farmers and merchants. But even though they sat together to save and ask for credit, they never spoke about their business difficulties. They could never transact between them. So that led us to actually create, to actually travel the country first and meet farmers and merchants across the entire country. That led us to create an agri-tech business unit, where we actually serve as a marketplace for farmers to actually sell their produce to merchants, informal merchants. For doing that, we focused on 4 pillars. First, we wanted to introduce fair trade. We wanted to make sure that the farmers are paid on time. They're the ones that absorb the majority of the risk in all of the transactions, and the ones that everybody forgets. Number 2, we wanted both sides to have an increase in terms of margins. So we try to remove as many middlemen as we can to make sure that they can transact. 3, all the food that at some point would go to waste for excess produce, what we did is we partnered with an association that takes care of children, orphans of HIV. So we, twice a week, are able to help more than 350 kids that have HIV and they have difficulties with nutrition. But not only kids, more than 500 adults as well. And 4, we managed to find a way to create new entrepreneurs. So we actually incentivize people in the community to start their business as merchants while leveraging everything that the farmers are actually producing. Now, connecting my dots, we can say that I was only able to go to a proper school because my mother joined savings groups, and she was an entrepreneur as well. I could only get a proper job in a proper corporate company because I went to a good school. I could only start a company and run it the way I think it's supposed to be run because I had the experience from a corporate that dealt with the bottom of the pyramid. So I also had experience in the bottom of the pyramid. That ended up giving me the opportunity to create a platform that manages savings groups, which it's also full circle because it's also what my mother used to actually support us. And we ended up building agri-tech. So my grandmother would have been happy. It's been 1 year since she's passed. I wish I had more time with her, mainly because I would want to ask what's her go-to-market strategy. Because even though she didn't go to school, she was amazing. And lastly, what makes me most proud is that we all come full circle when we start creating new entrepreneurs. When we start giving opportunity for new people that didn't have a means of living to actually start selling all this produce. So I would finish by saying all entrepreneurs, do not try to connect your dots going forward. Just trust the process and trust that at some point it will all make sense. And that's when you will truly find the reason why you set out in this journey. Thank you very much.